The email timestamp read 11 p.m. I stared at my monitor in the empty IT department, the blue light harsh against my face in the otherwise dark office. Thursday night server maintenance wasn't glamorous work, but someone had to do it, and that someone had been me for the past 8 years at Galloway and Pierce Financial Solutions. The coffee in my mug had gone cold 2 hours ago. The janitorial staff had come and gone. Even the security guard on the night shift had stopped making his rounds past my door. Probably figured I was one of those sad workaholics who lived for the gentle hum of server fans. The security filter had flagged another email. Routine stuff, usually. Some new hire forwarding sensitive documents to their personal Gmail, or the occasional spam that slipped through. I clicked it open without thinking, already planning which patches needed to run before midnight. From Amanda Lawson to Ethan Brooks. Subject: After Friday's meeting. Timestamp: Tuesday, 11:32 p.m. My wife, emailing Ethan Brooks, the new transfer from Austin who'd been on my team for 4 months, at 11:32 p.m. on a Tuesday. Amanda went to bed at 10 on weeknights. She'd been doing it for years. Skincare routine at 9:30, reading until 10, lights out. I'd teased her about it when we first started dating, called her an old lady trapped in a young woman's body. She'd thrown a pillow at my head and told me some of us needed our beauty sleep. So what was she doing sending emails at 11:32 p.m.? I should have closed it, should have logged it as reviewed and moved on with the maintenance cycle. But my finger was already clicking before my brain could intervene. Friday can't come soon enough. The timeline is holding, and once he's transitioned out, we won't have to be so careful anymore. I know it's been hard, watching him walk around the office like nothing's wrong. He trusts me completely. That's what makes this easier. Soon, I promise. I read it 3 times. The words didn't change. He trusts me completely. That's what makes this easier. I didn't rage, didn't slam my fist into the desk or throw the keyboard across the room like they do in movies. I sat perfectly still, my hand on the mouse, and felt something cold settle into my chest like a stone dropping into a frozen lake. In IT, we're trained to follow protocols. When you encounter an anomaly, you document it. You preserve the evidence. You don't act impulsively, because impulsive actions corrupt data and create cascading failures. Screenshot. Save to local drive. Forward to my personal email. Delete the forwarding record from the server logs. My hands were steady the entire time. Strange how muscle memory takes over when your conscious mind is somewhere else entirely. The office hummed around me. Server fans, climate control, the distant buzz of the building's electrical system. Normal sounds. The same sounds I'd heard 1,000 times during late-night maintenance. But nothing would sound normal again. I sat in the dark for 45 minutes. Maybe longer. The screensaver kicked in, rotating images of mountains and forests that Amanda had helped me choose when I first got promoted to this office. Something calming, she'd said, for when work gets stressful. Eventually, I logged out, turned off the monitors, walked to the elevator like a man in a dream. When I finally drove home, the streets were empty. Denver at midnight has a particular stillness to it, especially in winter. The mountains invisible against the black sky, the streetlights casting orange pools on the pavement. I drove 5 miles under the speed limit, hands at 10 and 2, like a teenager taking his driver's test. Amanda was asleep when I got into bed. She didn't stir when I pulled back the covers. Her breathing was steady and peaceful, the breathing of someone with nothing on her conscience. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to my wife sleep, and made a decision. I would know everything before I did anything. 6 months earlier, none of this existed. Not the suspicion, not the cold anger, not the careful calculation that would come to define my waking hours. 6 months earlier, we were Kevin and Amanda Lawson, the company success story. "You're going to be late," Amanda called from the bathroom that morning in June. "And I need you to drop me off first. My car's still in the shop." "I know, I'm ready." I was sitting at the kitchen table, nursing my second cup of coffee and pretending to read the news on my tablet. She emerged in her HR director power suit, navy blue, tailored, professional. At 38, Amanda still turned heads. Dark hair cut in a sharp bob, green eyes that could warm a room or freeze someone out depending on her mood. I'd fallen for those eyes 14 years ago in the break room on the 3rd floor, when she'd laughed at my terrible joke about server crashes, and I'd known, right then, that I was going to marry her. "You look nice," I said. "I look competent," she corrected, but she smiled. "Big day. New transfer starting. Austin's golden boy. Victor's been talking him up for weeks." "What department?" "IT, actually. Infrastructure team." I frowned. "I didn't request anyone new. We're fully staffed." "Victor's decision, direct placement. High potential talent, apparently." She kissed my cheek, leaving a faint trace of lipstick that I'd have to wipe off before we got to the office. "Play nice with him. His name's Ethan Brooks." "Since when does Victor make direct placements to my team?" Amanda shrugged, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. "Since always, when he wants to. You know how he is with his favorites." "I didn't realize we had any favorites in Austin." "Apparently we do now." She grabbed her purse and headed for the garage. "Come on, we're going to hit traffic." In the car, Amanda scrolled through emails on her phone while I navigated morning traffic on I-25. We'd done this 1,000 times. The comfortable silence of a long marriage, the easy rhythm of two people who knew each other's patterns. Or thought they did. "Anything interesting?" I asked, gesturing at her phone. "Committee meeting at 2, policy review at 4, the usual exciting world of human resources." She didn't look up. "Oh, and we're doing the new hire orientation at 10. Group of 7 this time. 4 in sales, 2 in accounting, and your golden boy." "He's not my golden boy." "He will be. Victor's very excited about him." "You keep saying that. What's so special about him?" Amanda finally looked up from her phone. "I don't know yet. I've only seen his file. But Victor thinks he's got executive potential. Wants him to get exposure to different departments before we fast-track him." "And he's starting in IT? That's a weird choice for someone with executive potential." "Infrastructure specifically. Victor thinks understanding the technical backbone of the company will make him a better leader someday." She returned to her phone. "It's above my pay grade to question it." I dropped her at the main entrance and parked in my usual spot, 3 rows back, near the emergency exit. Old habit. IT people like knowing where the exits are. We spend too much time thinking about disaster recovery to take anything for granted. The staff meeting was at 11. Conference room B, bagels and mediocre coffee, the usual Monday morning ritual. I took my seat near the back, force of habit. I'd been doing it since my first day at the company, and pulled up the agenda on my laptop. "Good morning, everyone." Amanda stood at the front of the room, her presentation clicker in hand. She'd transitioned seamlessly from wife to HR director, the way she always did. No hint of our morning conversation, No acknowledgement that we'd shared a bathroom and a car ride and a life. Professional to the core. Before we dive into the weekly updates, I want to introduce our newest team member. Ethan, come on up. He rose from a seat near the front. 28, maybe 29. Athletic build, the kind that suggested a gym membership actually being used rather than gathering dust. The kind of face you'd see in a catalog. Symmetrical, forgettable, generically handsome. He wore a blue button-down that probably cost more than my entire outfit, paired with slacks that fit just a little too well to be off the rack. Thanks, Amanda. His smile was practiced, confident, the smile of someone who'd given this speech before and knew exactly how to deliver it. I'm Ethan Brooks, transferring from our Austin office. I spent the last 3 years in systems support down there, and I'm excited to be joining the infrastructure team here in Denver. I've heard great things about this office, and I'm looking forward to learning from all of you. His eyes swept the room and landed on me for just a moment. A small nod. Professional courtesy from a new subordinate to his manager. I nodded back. Nothing about him seemed unusual. Nothing about him seemed dangerous. He was just another corporate climber, another resume-padding youngster who wanted exposure to different departments on his way up the ladder. That's the thing about the people who eventually burn your life to the ground. They don't announce themselves with warning signs and red flags. They smile and shake your hand and tell you they're excited to learn from you. Over the following weeks, I started noticing small things. Insignificant on their own. Meaningless in isolation. Ethan was assigned to my team despite being wildly underqualified for infrastructure work. His resume said system support, which in practice meant he'd reset passwords and installed printer drivers in Austin. Server architecture, network security, backup protocols. None of the things my team actually did. But Victor Reed, our CEO, had personally requested the placement, and arguing with Victor was like arguing with weather. He'd been running Galloway and Pierce for 15 years, and the company had tripled in size under his leadership. When Victor wanted something, Victor got it. He'll learn, I told myself during our first one-on-one meeting. Everyone starts somewhere. I really appreciate you taking me on, Ethan said, sitting across from my desk with the eager posture of someone who'd read too many books about making good first impressions. I know my background isn't exactly infrastructure-focused. That's an understatement. You'll have a lot of catching up to do. I'm a fast learner. That smile again. And I've always been interested in the technical side of things. Austin didn't really give me the opportunity to explore it. Why not? Politics. He shrugged, the universal gesture of someone blaming external factors for their own limitations. You know how it is. I didn't, actually. I'd never had trouble finding opportunities when I wanted them. But I let it slide. I'll pair you with Tony for the first few weeks. He's our senior engineer. Watch what he does, ask questions, and try not to break anything. Will do, boss. I suppressed a wince. I hated being called boss. But that was hardly a firing offense. Except Ethan didn't learn. He didn't even seem to try. His first 3 deadlines came and went with nothing to show for them. His ticket resolution rate was half the team average. When I asked Tony about his progress, Tony's response was a masterpiece of diplomatic frustration. He's enthusiastic, Tony said, which was Tony's way of saying useless without saying it out loud. Can he do the work? Eventually, maybe. He asks good questions, I'll give him that. But his follow-through is inconsistent. That's generous. I'm a generous person. I flagged the issues in our weekly one-on-one. Ethan nodded thoughtfully and promised to improve. He didn't improve, but he also didn't face any consequences. When I brought my concerns to Amanda, standard HR protocol for performance issues, she suggested I was micromanaging and recommended a more supportive approach. "He's still adjusting," she said over dinner one night in late August. We were at our usual corner table at Rioja, the restaurant where I'd proposed to her 10 years earlier. Pasta and wine and the comfortable rhythm of a Tuesday date night. "It's been 2 months, Amanda. He can't run a basic backup script without someone holding his hand." "Not everyone learns at the same pace, Kevin. Some people need more time to find their footing." "I'm not asking him to redesign the network architecture. I'm asking him to complete basic tasks that a first-year intern could handle." Amanda sipped her wine. "Have you considered that maybe the issue isn't Ethan? Maybe it's your expectations." "My expectations are that people on my team do their jobs." "That's very black and white." "It is black and white. Either the servers work or they don't. There's no gray area in infrastructure." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Maybe that's why you've been in the same position for 8 years. The words landed like a slap. I stared at her across the table, trying to figure out where that had come from. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Forget I said anything." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm sorry. Long day. I didn't mean it." I let it drop. Amanda knew HR better than I did. Maybe I was being too rigid. Maybe I did need to adjust my expectations for the new generation of workers. But something had shifted that night. A hairline crack in the foundation that I wouldn't notice until it was too late. I started paying attention. Amanda mentioned Ethan's name at dinner the following week. Then again a few days later. A comment about his presentation skills, a remark about his potential, nothing remarkable on its own. Then she stopped mentioning him entirely. When I brought up work, she changed the subject. When I asked about the new hires, she talked about everyone except him. His name had become a void in our conversations, a black hole that everything else bent around. She started going to the gym again. She'd let her membership lapse 2 years earlier, claiming she got enough exercise from stress and walking to meetings. Now she was up at 5:30 every morning, yoga pants and running shoes, back by 7 with flushed cheeks and a cheerfulness that felt almost aggressive. New perfume appeared on her dresser. Something expensive, something I didn't recognize. "Just trying something different," she said when I asked. She charged her phone face down on the nightstand. She'd never done that before. She'd always left it face up, screen visible, nothing to hide. Small things. Meaningless things. I told myself I was being paranoid. Suspicious without cause. Amanda was my wife of 12 years, my partner of 14. She wasn't the type to... No, I couldn't even finish the thought. But I couldn't stop watching either. The company holiday gala was held at the Denver Art Museum in mid-December. Black tie, open bar, the executive team pretending they remembered everyone's names. The kind of event I would have skipped if I could, but Amanda insisted attendance was mandatory for anyone who wanted to be taken seriously. I wore the suit she'd picked out for me 3 years ago. Charcoal gray, conservative cut, forgettable. Safe. The suit of someone who wasn't trying to be noticed. Amanda wore emerald green, a dress that hugged every curve, that caught the light when she moved and drew every eye in the room. She looked stunning, and I told her so in the car on the way over. "You clean up nice yourself," she said, adjusting my tie for the 3rd time. "Try to mingle tonight. Victor's been asking about you." "Victor barely knows I exist." "That's why you should mingle. Get on his radar." I don't want to be on anyone's radar. That's your problem, Kevin. Sometimes I think you're trying to be invisible. I didn't have a response to that. Because maybe she was right. The gala was everything I expected. Forced small talk, mediocre canapes, a jazz band that was just good enough to be forgettable. I spent the first hour doing exactly what Amanda suggested, shaking hands, making conversation, pretending to care about quarterly projections and market forecasts. I was talking to Jim Patterson from accounting about his daughter's college applications when I saw her. Amanda stood near the bar, a champagne flute in her hand, watching the room. But she wasn't watching the room. She was watching Ethan Brooks, who was chatting with a group of executives near the ice sculpture. He was animated, gesturing with his hands, making someone laugh. Her expression wasn't romantic, wasn't lovesick or dreamy or any of the things you'd expect from someone carrying on an affair. It was proprietary, calculating, like a chess player watching her favorite piece advance across the board. I knew that expression. I'd seen it once before, the night I proposed. I got down on one knee at our corner table at Rioja, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the ring, and Amanda looked at me with those green eyes and smiled like she'd just won something valuable. Then she turned and caught me watching. For half a second, our eyes met. Something passed between us, recognition maybe, or the first crack in the mask she'd worn for years. She raised her champagne flute in a silent toast. I raised mine back. Then I spent the rest of the night cataloging every interaction. Amanda guided Ethan toward the CFO, her hand light on his elbow, positioning him for introduction with the ease of someone who'd rehearsed it. Frank, have you met Ethan Brooks? He's been doing exceptional work in IT. She touched his elbow twice more over the course of the evening. Brief, professional, plausibly deniable. They never stood too close, never obviously together. In a room full of colleagues, there was nothing to see, nothing to report. But they moved in coordination, like dancers who'd practiced the same routine so many times it had become instinct. When Amanda went to the bar, Ethan was there 30 seconds later. When Ethan moved toward the executive cluster, Amanda was waiting with an introduction. This wasn't just an affair. This was something planned, something orchestrated. I excused myself around 10 o'clock, found a quiet hallway near the bathrooms, and pulled out my phone. I hadn't talked to Dominic Reyes since his sister's wedding 3 years ago. We'd been college roommates at Colorado State, two engineering nerds who bonded over bad pizza and worse beer and dreams of changing the world. Dom had gone into law instead of tech, specializing in labor and employment disputes out of a boutique firm in Chicago. We'd drifted apart the way old friends do, kept in touch through Christmas cards and occasional LinkedIn messages. I texted him. I need to talk. Not on the phone, not on email. When can you come to Denver? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. That bad? Maybe worse. A long pause. Then, I can fly out next weekend. Saturday work? Saturday works. Thanks, Dom. Don't thank me yet. You're buying dinner. I put my phone away and went back to the party. Amanda found me near the dessert table 15 minutes later and slipped her arm through mine. Having fun? She asked. Wonderful time, I said. You? These things are always a bit tedious, but necessary for morale. She squeezed my arm. Ready to head home soon? Whenever you are. We drove home in comfortable silence. Amanda hummed along with the radio, some pop song I didn't recognize, and I kept my eyes on the road and my hands steady on the wheel. The next day, while Amanda was at her Saturday yoga class, I created an encrypted folder on a portable drive and began the work that would consume the next 4 months of my life. My approach was simple. Treat this like an IT security breach. Document everything. Trust nothing. Verify independently. Build the case before anyone knows they're being investigated. I'd spent 15 years of my career preventing data leaks and investigating anomalies. The skills transferred surprisingly well to investigating my own wife. As IT infrastructure manager, I had legitimate access to the company's server backups. Security audits were part of my job description. Right there in black and white, line item 7 under primary responsibilities. If anyone asked, I was reviewing communication logs for potential data breaches, which was technically true, just not in the way they'd assume. I started with email. Amanda and Ethan were careful. They never used personal accounts on company devices, never sent anything that would trip the obvious filters. But the company email server retained backups going back 18 months, and I had root access to the archive system. It took me 3 weeks of after-hours work to compile the relevant correspondence. 47 emails over 5 months, starting 2 weeks after Ethan's arrival. The early ones were professional. Meeting requests, project updates, the kind of routine communication that wouldn't raise eyebrows. Anyone reviewing them would see exactly what they were supposed to see. An HR director checking in on a new employee's integration. But the tone shifted gradually, subtly, in ways that wouldn't register unless you were looking for them. Great job on the presentation today. You're a natural. Let's grab coffee this week. There are some things I want to discuss. I can't stop thinking about our conversation. And then, by October. Lunch tomorrow? Need to discuss the timeline. Can't stop thinking about Friday. He suspects nothing. We're being careful. They developed pet names. E and A, cute. The kind of thing people do when they're pretending they're characters in a romantic comedy instead of participants in a betrayal. But the real prize was an attachment I found on an email dated October 3rd. A Word document titled Transition Plan Draft.docx. I opened it expecting affair logistics, hotel reservations, cover stories, the mundane mechanics of deception. What I found was much, much worse. Transition Plan Confidential. Prepared by AL, reviewed by EB. Phase 1. Establish EB in IT infrastructure completed. Transfer request approved by VR. Direct placement bypasses standard hiring committee. Integration with KL's team complete. Phase 2. Build performance concerns. In progress. Document leadership issues with KL's management style. Anonymous complaints to HR, minimum 3. Performance review adjustments per attached schedule. Target, establish pattern by Q1. Phase 3, transition KL out. Options, voluntary resignation, preferred, or termination for cause. Severance package, standard plus, 3 months, ensures clean exit. Timeline, June-July. Phase 4, position EB for promotion. Internal posting for Director of IT Operations. EB as primary candidate. External candidates for appearance only. Phase 5, relationship disclosure. Wait period, 12 months post-divorce. Meet at industry conference, establish public timeline. Notes. KL will get a good severance package. He'll be fine. He's not ambitious anyway. He'll probably be relieved. I read it 4 times, then a 5th time, just to be sure I wasn't hallucinating. They weren't just having an affair. They were systematically dismantling my career to create a promotion opportunity for her boyfriend. My wife was going to fire me to advance the man she was sleeping with, and she'd convinced herself I'd be grateful for the severance. He's not ambitious, anyway. He'll probably be relieved. 14 years together. 12 years of marriage. And that's what she thought of me. I saved the document to 3 separate locations: the encrypted drive, a secure cloud backup, and a safety deposit box I opened the next day at a bank on the other side of town. Then I sat in my home office at 2 in the morning, staring at a wedding photo on my desk, and came closer to destroying everything than I'd ever admit. My finger hovered over the delete key. I could make this all go away, could pretend I'd never seen it, could live out the next 6 months in blissful ignorance and accept my severance package and move on. Some people would call that denial. Others would call it self-preservation. I opened the transition plan document again. Read that line one more time. He's not ambitious anyway. He'll probably be relieved. And I felt something crystallize in my chest, something cold and clear and utterly calm. I wasn't going to be relieved. I wasn't going to accept anything. I was going to burn it all down. I requested my own personnel file on January 15th. Company policy allowed any employee to review their HR records within 5 business days of a formal request. Amanda had to approve the release herself. "What's this about?" she asked that night, her voice carefully neutral. We were eating takeout Thai on the couch, the TV playing some true crime documentary neither of us was watching. "Annual review coming up. I want to make sure my documentation is in order." "Since when do you care about documentation?" "Since Victor started talking about restructuring." The lie came easily. "I want to make sure my position is secure." Amanda smiled and patted my knee. "Your position is fine, Kevin. Trust me." He trusts me completely. That's what makes this easier. The file arrived on January 20th. 3 anonymous complaints I'd never been informed of, all filed after Ethan's arrival. Vague allegations about my communication style and resistance to new team members and creating a hostile environment for junior staff. Amanda had marked them addressed informally, no action required. No action required, because the action was already planned. I cross-referenced the timestamps with the server logs. All 3 complaints had been submitted from workstations in the IT department. 2 from Ethan's machine. 1 from a shared terminal that Ethan had logged into that morning. He'd written complaints about me to my wife's HR department, and she'd filed them away to use as ammunition when the time came. I was living with someone who was building a legal case for my termination while sleeping next to me every night. Dominic arrived on a gray Saturday in late February. I picked him up at the airport and we drove to a hotel bar downtown. Neutral territory, no chance of running into anyone from the office. He looked good. A little grayer than I remembered, a little thicker around the middle, but his eyes were the same, sharp and assessing. The eyes of someone who spent his career finding the weak points in other people's arguments. "You look terrible," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. "Thanks. Nice to see you too, Dom." "I'm serious. You've lost weight. When's the last time you slept?" "I sleep." "How much?" "Enough." I slid a manila folder across the table. "I didn't ask you here to discuss my health." Dom opened the folder. I watched his face as he read, the initial confusion giving way to understanding, then to something cold and professional. The lawyer face. The face he probably showed to clients and opposing counsel when he was about to destroy someone. "Where did you get these emails?" "Server backups. Part of my job is security audits. I have legitimate access." "That's documented? Your access is documented." "Line item 7 in my job description. Perform regular security audits of communication systems to identify potential vulnerabilities. And you haven't confronted her? Haven't told anyone at the company? No. He set the folder down and looked at me. Really looked at me. The way a doctor looks at an X-ray, trying to figure out what's wrong and how bad it's going to get. That's impressive restraint. I want to do this right. Define right. I want her destroyed, Dom. Her career. Her reputation. I want everyone to know what she is, and I want to keep everything I've built while I'm doing it. He nodded slowly. That I can work with. He pulled out a legal pad and an expensive-looking pen. Walk me through everything, from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. I talked for 2 hours. Dom took notes, asked questions, occasionally made a sound that might have been admiration or might have been pity. When I finished, he ordered another bourbon and sat back in his seat. From an employment law perspective, you've got her dead to rights. HR ethics violations, manipulation of personnel records, abuse of position. The company's exposed to significant liability if they knew and did nothing. And personally? Divorce should be straightforward. Colorado's a no-fault state, so the infidelity itself doesn't technically matter, but this kind of premeditated fraud will absolutely influence asset distribution. You won't owe her anything, and you might get more than half. I don't want her money. I want her gone. You might change your mind about that when you see the settlement numbers. He tapped his pen against the legal pad. What about Ethan? What about him? He's a participant in a scheme to defraud you of your position. That's potentially actionable. At minimum, he'll be terminated for cause, and his career in corporate IT is effectively over. I should have felt satisfied. Instead, I felt empty. Like all the anger had burned away, leaving only ash. Dom seemed to sense it. Kevin, has Amanda done anything like this before? What do you mean? This level of planning, this level of coordination, it's sophisticated. It suggests experience. He leaned forward. Most affairs are sloppy, impulsive. People get caught because they're careless. This isn't careless. This is methodical, like she's done it before. I thought about it, and then I remembered. There was a guy, 5 years ago, maybe a little more, William Park. He worked in accounting. What about him? He was terminated suddenly. Performance issues, Amanda said. She handled the whole thing, the documentation, the exit interview, all of it. I paused, the memory coming back in fragments. He was young, ambitious, good-looking. Dom wrote down the name. Find out what happened to William Park. LinkedIn made it easy. William Park was working at a small financial firm in Phoenix now. His profile was sparse. People who've been burned tend to keep their digital footprints small. But he had a contact email listed, and after 3 days of drafting and redrafting, I sent him a message. Mr. Park, I'm a former colleague from Galloway and Pierce. I have questions about your termination 5 years ago. I believe I may be experiencing something similar, and your perspective could be valuable. This is not a trap or a trick. I'm gathering evidence against someone who hurt you and is now trying to hurt me. Please respond if you're willing to talk. He accepted within the hour. We set up a video call for the following Saturday. Amanda thought I was catching up with Dom again, which wasn't even a lie, really. Just not the whole truth. William Park appeared on my screen looking exactly like I'd expected. Late 20s, clean cut, the same generic handsomeness as Ethan Brooks. He also looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. The kind of tired you get from carrying something heavy for too long. I have to admit, I wasn't sure I'd ever hear from anyone at Galloway, he said. I figured they'd all forgotten about me by now. Some of us remember more than others. So what's this about? Your message was pretty vague, I told him. Not everything, not the full scope of my evidence, but enough. I told him about Amanda and Ethan, about the transition plan, about the anonymous complaints and the falsified performance reviews. By the time I finished, William's face had gone pale. This is insane, he whispered. I mean, I always suspected, but I never knew for sure. Tell me what happened to you, William. I need to know if there's a pattern. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed, a hollow, bitter sound that said more than words ever could. A pattern. Yeah, there's definitely a pattern. He told me everything. Amanda had pursued him shortly after I proposed. William had been new to the company, eager to prove himself, grateful for any mentor who would take an interest. Amanda was the HR director, powerful, connected, able to open doors that would otherwise stay closed. She was attentive, William said, choosing his words carefully. Always checking in, always finding reasons to stop by my desk. I was flattered at first. Who wouldn't be? A senior executive showing interest in a nobody from accounting. What happened? There was a company event, holiday party, like the one you described. He rubbed his face. I had too much to drink. She had too much to drink. We ended up in a storage room. And after? After, I told her it was a mistake. I said I couldn't do it again. She was married. I was supposed to report to her for performance reviews. It was wrong on every level. How did she take it? She smiled. Told me she understood. Said we'd pretend it never happened. He shook his head. 2 weeks later, my performance reviews came back with issues I'd never heard about before. Suddenly, I couldn't do anything right. 3 months after that, I was terminated for cause. No severance, no reference. I had to start over from nothing. Do you still have documentation? I have the termination letter. Her signature on the bottom, all official and proper. He paused. I kept it as a reminder. To never let anyone have that much power over me again. Would you be willing to provide that documentation to a lawyer? William's expression shifted. Something like hope. Something like fear. Is someone finally going to do something about her? Someone is. He nodded slowly. Then yes, I'll send you everything I have. William, was there anyone before you? He hesitated. I don't know for sure. But there was a guy when I started. In marketing, I think. His name was something with an M. He left suddenly, too, about 6 months before everything happened with me. How do you know about him? The way she acted around him. Possessive. Territorial. Like he belonged to her somehow. He shrugged. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now it fits a pattern. Yeah, William said quietly. Now it fits a pattern. A week later, I was called into a meeting with Diana Castellano. Diana was the company's chief operating officer, Amanda's primary rival in the executive hierarchy. They'd clashed for years over budget allocation, strategic direction, personnel decisions, and approximately 17 other issues I didn't fully understand. The animosity was legendary. You could feel the temperature drop when they were in the same room. When I got the calendar invite, urgent, please see me at 3 p.m., my first thought was that Amanda had made her move. That somehow she'd discovered my investigation and was using Diana to fire me before I could act. I walked into Diana's office prepared for anything. Close the door, Diana said, and sit down. We need to talk. I sat in one of the guest chairs across from her massive desk. Diana was in her mid-50s, silver-haired, with the kind of face that revealed nothing unless she wanted it to. She'd built her career on being unreadable. "I know what your wife is doing," she said. I didn't react. Couldn't afford to. "I'm not sure what you mean." "Don't insult my intelligence, Kevin." Her voice was sharp but not unkind. "I know about Ethan Brooks. I know about the performance reviews. I know about the plan to push you out and install him in your position." "How?" "Because I've been watching Amanda Lawson for 2 years, waiting for her to make a mistake I could prove." Diana leaned forward, her eyes intense. "She's protected. Margaret Reed, Victor's wife, they were sorority sisters at Stanford. Every complaint about Amanda gets buried. Every red flag gets explained away. I've known what she is for a long time. I just couldn't do anything about it." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you have evidence I don't, and I have access to the board that you don't." She smiled thinly. "I'm proposing an alliance." "What kind of alliance?" "You present your evidence to the full board. Not to Victor, he'll just cover for her. The full board, at a special session I'll arrange through the audit committee. I'll ensure you're protected from retaliation. In exchange, Amanda Lawson gets terminated for cause, and we both get what we want." I studied her. "What do you get out of this?" "Amanda gone. That's enough." "Is it?" Diana's smile widened slightly. "You're smarter than people give you credit for. Victor Reed has been running this company like his personal fiefdom for 15 years. He's protected Amanda. He's ignored complaints. He's built a culture where certain people are untouchable." She spread her hands. "The board is ready for change. Amanda is the lever that makes that change possible. So this is about taking down Victor, too. This is about cleaning house." She stood and walked to her window, looking out at the mountains in the distance. "I'm not pretending my motives are pure, Kevin. I don't like Amanda, and I've never made a secret of that. But that doesn't make what she's doing any less wrong. We can both benefit from stopping her." I thought about it. The enemy of my enemy wasn't my friend, but she was useful. "I have conditions," I said. "Name them." "New HR oversight protocols. No single HR director gets unchecked authority over personnel decisions. Everything goes through a committee." "Reasonable. What else?" "William Park. He was terminated 5 years ago. Amanda did the same thing to him. He's retained counsel. The company needs to make it right." "A settlement." "A fair one." Diana nodded slowly. "I can work with that. Anything else?" I stood up. "I'll be in touch with the details." "And Diana? If this goes sideways, if Amanda finds out before we're ready—" "She won't." Diana's eyes were cold. "I've waited 2 years for this. I'm not going to blow it now." The board meeting was scheduled for April 15th, a Thursday. The agenda listed IT Security Vulnerability Assessment, innocuous enough that Amanda wasn't invited. She kissed me goodbye that morning without suspecting a thing. "Late night tonight," I told her. "Board presentation. Don't wait up." "Good luck," she said. "I know you'll do great." I almost felt guilty. Almost. I arrived at corporate headquarters at 8 a.m. and spent the morning reviewing my materials, making sure every document was in order, every timestamp verified, every claim supported by evidence. At 2 p.m., I walked into the executive boardroom. 9 board members arranged around the mahogany table. CEO Victor Reed at the head, looking faintly bored. COO Diana Castellano across from him, her face carefully neutral. Corporate counsel at the far end, laptop open. And me, standing at the presentation screen with 4 months of evidence loaded and ready. "Thank you all for making time for this special session," Diana said, calling the meeting to order. "As you know, we've asked Kevin Lawson, our IT infrastructure manager, to present findings from a recent security assessment." "Kevin?" I stood up, connected my laptop to the projector, took a deep breath. "Thank you. What I'm about to present may be disturbing, but I ask that you let me finish before asking questions." I started with the theoretical framework, how an HR director with system access could manipulate personnel records, suppress complaints, and coordinate with an employee to conduct what amounted to internal fraud. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Victor Reed's eyes narrowed. Then I revealed it wasn't theoretical. I walked them through everything. The 47 emails over 5 months. The transition plan document with its phases and timelines. Ethan's falsified performance reviews versus his actual work product. The tickets, the project logs, the timestamps that proved he'd missed every major deadline while receiving exceeds expectations ratings. I showed them the anonymous complaints about my management style, traced through metadata to Ethan's workstation. I showed them William Park's termination letter and explained the pattern of behavior going back at least 5 years. I listed Amanda's violations of 14 separate HR policies. I explained the liability exposure if I went to the EEOC or filed suit. The numbers were staggering, enough to threaten the company's insurance coverage and reputation. By the time I finished, the room was dead silent. Victor Reed's face was the color of old cheese. "This is..." Corporate counsel was flipping through the documentation I'd provided, his reading glasses sliding down his nose. "This is significant exposure. If these allegations are accurate..." "They're accurate," I said. "Every document is time-stamped and verified. I have forensic analysis from an independent firm confirming the metadata." "Kevin, I had no idea," Victor started. "Mr. Reed," Diana cut him off smoothly, "I should inform you that I've already briefed the audit committee on these findings. The committee has reviewed the evidence independently and concurred with Mr. Lawson's assessment." Victor's head swiveled toward her. "You went behind my back?" "I followed proper governance protocols when I suspected a conflict of interest might compromise the normal chain of command." Diana's voice was ice. "The board has a fiduciary duty to act on credible evidence of corporate misconduct, regardless of personal relationships that might otherwise cloud judgment." The room went silent. Every board member avoided Victor's eyes. "I'm calling for an immediate vote," Diana continued. "Motion to terminate Amanda Lawson and Ethan Brooks for cause, effective immediately." "Seconded," said Grace Whitman, the audit committee chair. Victor looked around the room, searching for allies who weren't there. The board members he'd appointed, the executives he'd promoted, the people who owed their careers to his patronage. None of them would meet his gaze. "All in favor," 9 hands went up. "Motion carries. Security will be dispatched to collect Ms. Lawson and Mr. Brooks immediately." Diana turned to me. "Thank you for your professionalism in handling this matter, Mr. Lawson. The board appreciates your discretion." I nodded and sat down. It was 3:47 p.m. My marriage had officially ended, and my wife didn't even know it yet. Amanda's office was on the 4th floor, corner suite, windows overlooking the mountains. I'd visited 1,000 times over the years, dropping off lunch, picking her up for dinner, stealing quick conversations between meetings. This would be the last time. 2 security officers stood at the door when I arrived. Amanda was behind her desk, her face cycling through shock, denial, and something darker. Her eyes found mine the moment I stepped into the doorway. Kevin. Her voice was controlled, but I could see the tremor in her hands. What is going on? These men won't tell me anything, and my phone keeps... Ask them to step outside for a minute, I said. She hesitated, then nodded at the security officers. Give us 5 minutes. They exchanged glances, then moved to the hallway. I closed the door behind them. What did you do? Amanda asked. What did I do? I almost laughed. I found the emails, Amanda, all 47 of them. I found the transition plan, the one where you mapped out exactly how you were going to destroy my career so you could promote your boyfriend. Her face went white. I found the anonymous complaints you filed against me, the ones Ethan wrote from his workstation and submitted to your department. I found the falsified performance reviews. I stepped closer. I found everything. Kevin, I can explain. You can't explain anything. There's nothing to explain. You weren't just sleeping with him. You were systematically dismantling my life to clear a path for his advancement. You were going to make me think I'd failed so I'd leave quietly and be grateful for a severance package. That's not what... I talked to William Park. She went still. 5 years ago, you did the same thing to him. When he rejected you, you destroyed his career. I shook my head. How many others, Amanda? How many people have you done this to? You don't understand. Her voice had changed, harder now, defensive. You have no idea what it takes to succeed in this company. The politics, the backstabbing. I did what I had to do to get ahead. By destroying people? By using your position as a weapon? By being smart. She stood up, and for a moment I saw the real Amanda, the one underneath the masks, the one she'd hidden for 14 years. I earned everything I have. I clawed my way up from nothing while men like Victor Reed handed promotions to their golf buddies. If I took shortcuts, it's because the game was rigged from the start. And me? Was I just a shortcut too? Something flickered in her eyes. Guilt, maybe? Or just irritation at being caught. You were convenient, she said quietly. You were stable and reliable, and you never asked too many questions. You were the perfect cover. I should have felt hurt. Maybe I did, somewhere underneath the numbness. But mostly I just felt tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of wondering. Tired of the woman standing in front of me. I loved you, I said. For 14 years, I loved you. I would have done anything for you. I know. Her voice softened slightly. That's what made this easier. I turned toward the door. Kevin, wait. We can talk about this. Work something out. You don't have to... I don't know who you are, I said, not turning around. I don't think I ever did. And I don't care anymore. Kevin! I walked out. Behind me, I heard Amanda calling my name, her voice rising to something between a scream and a sob. I didn't turn around. The divorce was finalized in August. Amanda hired an expensive attorney, someone from a big firm downtown, all glass offices and designer suits. But expensive doesn't mean effective, especially when your position is as weak as hers was. She was unemployed and effectively unhireable in HR. She was facing potential civil suits from William Park, who'd retained counsel and was building a case. She couldn't claim marital assets were acquired through her income when that income had been maintained through fraud. In the end, we split clean. No alimony either way. I kept the house. She kept her car and personal items. Retirement accounts split evenly. Done. The final signing was in her attorney's office, a sleek conference room with too much glass and not enough warmth. Amanda sat across from me, looking like a different person from the woman I'd married. She'd lost weight, and not in a healthy way. Dark circles under her eyes. "I loved you once," she said as I signed the last page. I set down the pen. "You loved what I gave you. That's not the same thing." She moved to Seattle a month later. Administrative assistant at a tech startup, starting over from the bottom. The promotion came through in September, director of IT operations. "You've earned it," Diana told me, sliding the offer letter across her desk. Victor Reed's old desk, redecorated in her style. There was a confidential settlement, too, for the hostile work environment, a number that made my eyes widen. "That's legally prudent," Diana said. "You could have sued us into oblivion. This ensures you don't." I took the job, implemented new oversight protocols, built a team I trusted. A year later, I had dinner with William Park when he came to Denver for a conference. "The settlement came through," he said. "It was generous." "Good. It's not about the money, though. It's about someone finally believing me." I understood exactly what he meant. Her name was Brooke Whitfield, civil engineer, divorced. We met at a barbecue and talked for 3 hours about everything and nothing. Third date, she asked about my divorce. "My wife was sleeping with a guy on my team," I said. "She was also planning to get me fired so she could promote him." Brooke's fork stopped mid-twirl. "That's specific." I documented everything, built a case, presented it to the board. She was terminated. We divorced. Brooke was quiet for a moment. "You know what most people would do? Explode. Confront her immediately. Burn everything down. I wanted to do it right. That's either incredibly mature or slightly terrifying. Maybe both." She raised her glass. "Here's to surviving." I packed up late one Wednesday, the office empty, grabbed my keys from the desk drawer. An old photo. Me and Amanda at a company picnic. Smiling. I looked at it for a long moment. Then I dropped it in the shred bin and turned off the lights. Some things aren't worth keeping.